Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to springboard off the actual most popular by far video on this channel, which is the Policy and Procedures Library. In that video, I build a library of Policy and Procedures Manual that is based on the Site Pages library. So we use SharePoint Site Pages to build our policy pages and templates and the index and all that stuff. I'm going to take a slightly different approach today. Some of my clients have said, okay, but our policies and procedures are in Word or PDF, or sometimes we have Excels or forms or images we want to include. And the site pages will handle all that, but it feels a little bit clunky sometimes. Or one of you said, how do I edit those site pages the way I edit a Word document? It's a little awkward at times. So this approach gives you a bit more flexibility. It doesn't give you the really tight, clean view that the site pages afford, and the downside is people will end up opening the policy, or in this case we're going to create a knowledge base. Those files will get opened in the app, such as Word or Excel or an image viewer or whatever, other than just being in the browser. But let's get into it. You can see if this might be useful for you. Let's create a knowledge base together. Ooh, how exciting. All right, let me just minimize myself. Ow, tickles. So this is the idea that what we're looking at here. I've created a policy and procedure library. Together we're going to create the same structure, but we're going to call it the knowledge base. And notice that it's got an index here and all of the different files. This is an image file. This is a Word file. There's Excel files here as well. And I can click to open this policy. It opens in the browser. That's a setting in your document library you can turn on or off. If you don't know how to change that setting, reach out to me. I'll let you know. And I'll show you in this video how to create this template where these fields are actually directly from the document library. So they're surfaced in the Word document here. So I'll show you how to do that in this video as well, in case you don't know already. Okay, let's get into it. So first thing we're going to do is go back to our home page, and we're going to create a new library. Let's start fresh and clean. I'm going to create a document library, and I'm going to call it knowledge base. Now, as a rule, we always create libraries with no space in the name, and we always use a description. Better description than that would be good, but for this example, I'll just go with that. Now, showing in navigation means it'll show up at the top of the page here. And yeah, we're going to keep that one showed in the navigation. Let's do it. All right, so now we have a fresh, clean document library, and we're going to go into the library settings. And yes, the more library settings in addition. Oh, that didn't save because I didn't click save. Let's set it here. Knowledge base, save. All right. Now what I want to do is play with the columns in this library. So columns are really important. One of the most fundamental things I teach in SharePoint is columns for lists and libraries. Okay, so we're going to add and update our columns here. So first of all, the title column is always there, and this is usually an additional field that you can tag your file names with, because this is a document library. So we're going to rename the title column to the article name. So this is going to be the knowledge base article, an article in our knowledge base. But notice that the field up here, the internal field name is still title. This doesn't change field name, it just changes how it's displayed. So let me click OK to save that change. We're going to use that field a lot. So there it is, article name. Now we're going to create a new column, and it's going to be called article number. Notice no spaces, and we'll use single line of text. And I want to make this mandatory. Let's require this column contains information. You could also make it unique here. For simplicity, I'm not going to do that. It has some complication, but if you want to have unique article numbers and enforced systemically, you can do it that way. Okay, So I'm going to save that. Now I have article number. And again, I like to create it with no spaces, but then let's make it more attractive for the user. Article number. Put a space in there now. Okay. I'm also going to add a field to classify our different articles. I'll call it classification. And that'll be a choice field. You could also use managed metadata fields for this. This is going to be a choice field just to do it quick and easy here. I know you already know about managed metadata and it works real well. Now I put numbers in front of this. This is to drive a non-alphabetical sort order. There's different ways to handle that. But for now, this is a really simple, I love the simple solution. So this is simple. And it's going to default to the first one. I'm going to delete the default. I don't want a default. And is it required? Yes. Let's always classify our documents. Okay. And then I'm going to add one more field. And this is going to be kind of like the display, the article display number. And so I'm just going to call it article, the sort of brief version of article name and article number. And this will be a calculated field. Now, calculated fields, if you haven't played with them, you're going to like this because you don't have to enter it. The user doesn't have to enter it. It's calculated based on other columns. And you can actually use all kinds of Excel formulas down here, develop these formulas in Excel or in AI and paste them in. So I'm going to take the article number and then I'm going to append it with the ampersand to a dash. And then I'm going to append it again to the article name. So it'll be number dash name. Now, when you're creating calculated fields, what you do before you hit save is just highlight it and hit Control-C, copy it. Because if you have to go back, you don't want to re-enter it. You want to just edit what you. Now, this is going to be a simple one, so it shouldn't matter. But I always just copy that in case it fails. Okay, there we go. We've got that now. Okay, at this point, you could add additional fields if you want. If this is a knowledge base, you may have other fields like who's the owner of the article. Maybe you add a sequence number that will drive the ordering of the documents. Last reviewed date, last published date, maybe a subcategory. There's many different fields you might add. Status, these different things. For simplicity and brevity, we're not doing that. Okay, so now we have this knowledge base. And we have a bunch of fields added here. No files in here yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop a Word document that I've already developed here into this library. And let's take a look at it. So I call this a policy template. Actually, let me rename it because this is going to be our article template. Instead, I created it as a policy template for the other example. The preparation work. Now, notice that there's some required fields that are required and they're highlighted yellow. I'm missing them. So let's go ahead and showing the details pane is one way to do this. Okay, so there's a preview of it. I'll scroll down, move myself out of the way. Okay, so the article number is required. That's why it's red. So let's say this is article number 1, 2, 3, 4. And classification, also required. Come back. There it is, classification. So let's say this one is a information technology type. Yeah, because it's the template, maybe I need to do something different. And then the article name, this is the article template. And I save that. Saved. Now just close that panel. All right, so here's the article number, the classification, article name. Let's change this view so the article name shows up. So edit current view, article name. I'd like to put it right after the article number. I think that's a logical place for it. So that's position 6. Article name, position 6. Okay. Okay, so now you can see the name, number, article name, and classification, and the article is number dash name. All right, so that's pretty straightforward to drag and drop that in. I developed that template using AI, but let me show you if I open it up in Word. Open in Word. These fields are actually inserted from let's remove content controller. We don't have a policy owner field, so I'm going to leave that blank. So for the classification, first of all, notice that if I go into View, over at the right, notice that's the SharePoint Properties. So I can show that SharePoint Properties field. And what this is doing is pulling the fields directly from SharePoint. So notice article template, article number 000. So let's just show how this works. So let's say this is the article number. I know it's redundant because it's shown right above there, but if I was to insert quick parts, document property, and different fields will show up here. Now, they don't always show up, but there's article number. That's what I'm looking for, 000. So this is actually editable here. So maybe I wanted 9999 for article number. The classification, well, let's do the insert again. Quick parts, document property, classification, loop. It's information technology. And then the date published. I don't actually have that in here. I wonder if I can put in the last date modified. Let's just see if that shows up. Document property. Yeah, it's not showing it. There are some other fields like modified date. There's a create date. Let's see if I can find modified date. Last saved. I'll use create date just for simplicity. And then I can put it in the format I like, that one. Okay, so we just close this properties. And so now I can save this, which is just closing it in good old Word. And now I've updated that. Let me refresh the screen. And notice the article number has been changed because I modified it right in Word. So that's kind of a cool feature. You can do that in any document library. You can surface those manage metadata fields or different columns right in the Word document. A lot of people don't know you can do it. It can be finicky, but go nuts. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to add a few more of these. So I'm going to copy this here just to create a few more files so I can show you some example on the view. So copy here. Different ways to create copies here, but I'm just doing good old online copy command. And I'm going to edit in grid view, good old grid view. Apparently I'm using good old a lot today. So let's say this is example 1. This one's example 2. And this one down here is example 3. Okay, let's just clean up our examples here a little bit. So let's say this is article number 1001. And it's going to be example article 1. This is article 1002, and maybe this is how to get a parking spot. And this is article number 1010, and it's going to be called expense policy. Okay, and then we just classify them here as well. So, for example, one article is going to be hiding it. Pardon me. Let's call this is a human resources policy. Parking spot is also human resources, and expense is going to be a finance policy. All right. So the article numbers are calculated fields automatically filled in. Let's exit the grid view and save those changes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a view so that we can see this in more of that indexed sort of style, like this. And we're actually going to call it index, and it'll look like this when we're done. So let's go back to the knowledge base. We're going to go up here and we're going to create a new view. And as I said, it will be called index. And this will be used on lots of different places. We'll make it public so other people can use it. And of course, you can use gallery views. Probably not a calendar view for this, but the gallery one's quite nice. Go ahead and play with that a little bit. Okay, so we're creating a new view. It's called index. Now, let's edit that view to make it. Now we have it created. We're going to edit that view and make it our own. So I'm going to make this the default view. Assume that most people are going to be viewing these articles, this knowledge base, using this index. And we'll keep the type field there, the name field there. I don't want to clutter this view up with the modified date or time, or the article number, or the article name, or the classification. What we're going to keep is the article field and the name, and that's it. That's all we're going to do in terms of fields for this, and I'll show you how this works in a second. And then we'll sort down here by the article. So that's the number dash name, you'll recall. You could also sort by that sequence number if you added it. Down here, tabular view, this adds an extra bit of space on the left-hand side of the index. So I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to group by the classification. So this will form our index. And I like it expanded for a small grouping, but if it's a large grouping, keep it collapse. So this is a view setting. All right. So now we're going to approve this. Okay. Okay, so here are our various files, and they are displayed in this classification order. Looking pretty good. Now, what we're going to do is clean this up a little bit. We're going to use JSON formatting to make this a little bit more awesome. So the first thing we're going to do, rather than say classification colon and the name here, we're going to remove classification and just say 1-human resources, and we're going to remove the brackets at the end here. So the way we do this is we go up to the view menu again and we format the current view. And then this is where I use AI a lot. So I'm going to paste in some JSON here, Control-A, Control-V. And then before you save, always do a preview to see what it looks like. So see how it's changed the headings there? Now I could just cancel, or I like it, so I'm going to save. So that's the headings looking a little bit more tidy. Now, what we're going to do here, instead of showing the file name, I want to show this article number here, and I want to make it clickable and bold. So now we're going to use some JSON formatting here, and we're going to format the name column to make it clickable and bold. Well, it's already clickable, so it's really just bolding it right now. So let's go in and format this column. Okay, so I'm going to copy this formatting that I developed earlier and refined with Copilot. And I'm going to do Control-A, Control-V, paste it in here, and preview. Okay, So now it says example 1, it's bigger, it's bolder, and it's still clickable. That's pretty cool. But I want to go one step further. I want to actually display the article number here rather than the file name. So actually copy the JSON in the comments from this YouTube video. Okay, I'm going to Control-A, Control-V, and preview here. Okay, so now it's taking example 1 article, text, and displaying it there. Now, I'd love that we didn't have to have this article field showing, and you might find a cleaner way to do this. But I'm going to hide this article number field so it's not showing, but you still need to have it in the view. Otherwise, this one fails to find it. It just shows blank. Okay, so we're going to go into this article column, and we're going to format it now, format this column. And we're going to use a bit of JSON that says hide the column content. Okay, so let's preview that. So now it's empty there. It's not showing the article number. Okay, I really like to not have that on the screen at all, but that's the way sometimes there's workarounds required, isn't there? All right, so now we have our index in place. Now let me show you something about this. At this point, now we should have created permissions, set permissions on this library. So I won't do that here. Lots of articles out there about setting permissions, but almost for sure you would have most people, everyone except external users, for example, able to read this knowledge base but not edit, right? So you'll have a few people that are able to edit, and everyone else would be able to read only. And then we can drag and drop files in here at will. So let me go to the All Documents view, and let me just drag in a file from my computer. And here it is, called Lightbulb Character. Now let's show the details pane here. And notice that this file is missing some information. So the article name. So this is a image article example. So it's actually an image file. Article number, let's say this is article number 888. Classification, I'm going to say this is a marketing file. And there we go. So then if I go and view the index again, we should see something under marketing now. There it is, Lightbulb Character, showing it's a new file, and it shows it as an image file, right, where these were all Word files. Okay, we're almost there. One more thing to set in this, and it's a really key piece, so thanks for sticking around. This will be worth the price of admission. In order to manage this knowledge base in a way that is really simple to manage, we're going to set version history so that we can publish draft versions. The idea here is that I want to be able to manage and publish all of the files in one spot. So certain people will have the ability to read. Other people will have the ability to edit. So the editors will be the knowledge base authors group of some sort. And then everyone else in the organization will read only the list. So how do we set it up so that those authors can be working away on stuff, but only until they publish it or approve it does it show up for everyone else? Well, luckily this is very easy to do out of the box in SharePoint. So this is one of the features I've been using since the early days of SharePoint. It hasn't really changed. Remember, permissions are already set in this library. I'm going to go into the library settings and more library settings. Obviously, this is where you would set permissions, which I'm skipping in this one. I'm going to go into versioning settings. Now, content approval is something you could do here, but for simplicity, I'm not going to set content approval. This isn't necessary because this library is going to be the editors have edit access, everyone else is read only. So it's not like everyone can contribute to the library, only certain things gets published. So I'm going to leave that as no for simplicity. But what I am going to do is set major and minor versions here. So the default is major versions, which is invisible to the user. You open a file, you edit it, you save it, and a new version is created each time. What this does, it adds an extra layer of control to the user. You actually have the opportunity to publish a version. So major and minor are automatically being created here. And let me show you how. So down at the bottom here, look at this setting, draft item security. So recall this says major and minor brackets, draft versions. So who can see the draft items of the document library? Only users can edit items. So what this is, out of the box in the library, you can say, hey, if this person's not an editor, they're not going to be able to see the draft versions. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works now. So that setting is there. And if I modify, let me go back to the template. I'll open the template up. And I'm going to do a save as, save a copy to the same library, knowledge base. And let's call it new article 2025. I know, not very creative. So I save this new article 2025. And let's say the article number is actually 2025. And this classification, remember this is affecting the SharePoint metadata directly. Right? So now let me close that and refresh here. All documents view. So these views are really handy. Okay, so notice, let me just sort by modified, newer to older, so put the new ones on top. So here's the newest one. We just modified it 4 minutes ago. And so this happens to be after we set the version history in place. So let's take a look at it. Now, just to make this really explicit, let's modify this view. I'm going to edit the current view. And you'll see in the field list for the view, there's a field called version. So this is the current version of this file. Let me move this up near to the beginning so I can see it. Put it in position 4 in this view. Okay. So this is becoming kind of a document management view that is called all documents. And so notice the version of this version history example is 0.3. So because we set only editors will be able to see draft versions, anybody who comes to this library and is not an editor won't see any of the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 versions until we take and we select this file and we publish it. So you don't have to put a comment here, but I like to. I'm going to use this one apparently. And then you publish. Okay, published one item. Now look at this. The version is now 1.0. So the 1.0 are the major versions, and people will be able to see those. Those are the published versions. Okay? If I were to edit this again, it would become a 1.1. Even if I were to edit the properties, let me show you that. So let's say, oh, actually, it's not a information technology. It's actually a finance. Okay? Close that again. And now it's 1.1. So anybody who comes to this library is still going to see 1.0. They'll see the last published version in the index, unless they're an editor, in which case they'll see the latest one. So pay attention to that. There's a few nuances here. And so if you have questions about how to deal with that or different ideas, I'm happy to post responses in the comments, but I don't want to overcomplicate it here. So once you republish it, it's now 2.0, okay? And you can also go and you can select a file, and you can go up here and you can see the version history as well. Okay? So this one actually has no published version, so it's not going to show up at all. So I would have to publish that for it to show up in the index. And I'll show you one more example here. If I drag in a new file, so I've got sample worksheet 04, dragging and dropping in here. Okay. There's sample worksheet 04. Here it is. Version 0.1. Properties. So article name, test, article number, 0.00. classification. You notice I can set all these fields, and that's all groovy. And every time I save it, look at version 0.1 became now 0.4, but it's still not published. Okay, so the index view here will show all of the files available to us, but the editors will see all the files, and everyone else will only see the ones that are published. All right, there you have it. So this is a very flexible sort of knowledge-based solution. You can drop any kind of files in there. You can edit in place, which makes it really easy to manage. There are a number of improvements you can do. As I mentioned, some fields like review date or owner, or there's also a bunch of features like the index view you could update so it only shows the published files, for example, so that the editors will see the same as everyone else. The other thing that you could do is add a button for publish. So on the sort of document management, the all documents view, you could have buttons to publish it rather than having to sort of select the file and select publish in the top. And you can do a lot more things with that publish button with Power Automate Flow. So let me know if there's anything I can help with. Happy to get involved, to give you a little bit of support, or do the whole build for you. Often people hire Lightlever just to help them along the way, a few hours here or there, and really get people moving in the right direction with this type of solution. It can really save you a lot of time. So reach out if there's anything I can do for you. All right, thanks for hanging in there. We'll talk to you again soon.